Have you ever wondered who are history's most terrifying men? As we delve into the pages of history, we encounter figures that have left an indelible mark, not for their nobility or their heroism, but for their brutality and reign of terror. Today, we begin our journey with one such man whose name has become synonymous with fear, despotism, and genocide: Adolf Hitler. The chilling tale of Adolf Hitler begins in the early 20th century. Born in Austria, Hitler's rise to power in Germany was marked by a shrewd understanding of mass psychology, propaganda, and political maneuvering. His charisma and oratory skills won him an ardent following, paving the way for his appointment as the Chancellor of Germany in 1933. His reign ushered in an era of absolute power, authoritarianism, and the systematic extermination of millions of innocent lives. Hitler's chilling vision of a racially pure state led to the Second World War, a conflict that claimed the lives of an estimated 75 million people, making it the deadliest war in human history. Under Hitler's rule, the world witnessed the horrors of the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were systematically exterminated in concentration and extermination camps. His policies of racial purity and Aryan supremacy led to the mass murder of those deemed unfit for his ideal world, including the disabled, the Roma, and other minorities. But Hitler's reign of terror didn't stop at genocide. He was also responsible for countless acts of aggression, invasions, and war crimes during the Second World War. His militaristic expansion and flagrant disregard for international treaties plunged the world into a conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation. Adolf Hitler, a name that will forever be associated with the darkest period in human history. His reign stands as a stark reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink when power is unchecked and hate is allowed to fester. As we continue our exploration of history's most terrifying men, let us remember the lessons from Hitler's era and strive to prevent such atrocities from ever happening again. From one dictator to another, let's turn our attention to Josef Stalin. Born into poverty in the late 19th century, Stalin clawed his way to the pinnacle of Soviet power by the mid-20th century. His rise to power wasn't without its fair share of cunning political maneuvering. Stalin's policies were a brutal mix of political repression and economic reforms. His 5-year plans aimed to transform the Soviet Union from an agrarian society into an industrial powerhouse. But these plans came at a horrific cost. Forced labor, widespread famine, and millions of deaths were the grim realities under Stalin's rule. But the brutality didn't stop at economic policies. Stalin's political repression took a terrifying form in the Gulag system. These were labor camps where millions of people were sent to work under harsh conditions. Political dissidents, intellectuals, and anyone whom Stalin perceived as a threat were often sent to the gulags. The chilling motto of the gulags was, "Work makes you free," but for many, it was a one-way ticket to a harsh and often deadly existence. The death toll under Stalin's rule is a matter of heated debate among historians. While some estimates put the number in the tens of millions, others suggest a lower, yet still staggering figure. Regardless of the exact number, it's undeniable that Stalin's policies and purges led to the deaths of millions of people. Stalin's reign wasn't just about physical repression. It was a reign of fear where the mere whisper of dissent could lead to imprisonment or worse. The Soviet people lived under the constant threat of the secret police, and neighbors were often pitted against each other in a climate of suspicion and fear. Stalin's reign of terror left a deep and lasting scar on the Soviet Union and the world. His legacy is a grim reminder of the human cost of absolute power and the lengths some will go to maintain it. From Europe, we now move to Asia, to another figure who caused immense suffering: Mao Zedong. Mao, the son of a peasant farmer, rose to power as the chairman of the Communist Party of China. His rise was marked by a brutal civil war and a relentless pursuit of power that would change the face of China forever. In the late 1950s, Mao launched the Great Leap Forward, a campaign aimed at rapidly transforming China's agrarian economy into a socialist society through rapid industrialization and collectivization. However, the policy was a catastrophic failure. It led to the most devastating famine in history, killing tens of millions of people. Mao's government, however, refused to acknowledge the crisis leading to further deaths. Then, in 1966, Mao started the Cultural Revolution. He aimed to purge the impure elements of Chinese society and reassert his authority. This led to a decade of chaos, violence, and widespread human rights abuses. Millions more died from violence and forced labor. Mao's rule, marked by continuous revolutionary campaigns, led to severe social and economic upheaval. His radical policies, such as the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, resulted in an estimated death toll ranging from 45 million to as high as 70 million people, making it one of the deadliest mass killings in human history. The impact of Mao's rule on Chinese society was profound. He created a cult of personality around himself and suppressed intellectual freedom, creating a climate of fear and obedience that lasted long after his death in 1976. Mao's radical policies led to one of the deadliest mass killings in human history. Next on our list is a man whose name is synonymous with genocide: Pol Pot. Pol Pot, born as Salot Sar, rose to infamy as the leader of the Khmer Rouge, the communist party that seized power in Cambodia in the mid-70s. A man of simple origins, Pol Pot studied in France and reportedly developed radical ideologies during his time there. Returning to Cambodia, Pol Pot gradually rose through the ranks of the Khmer Rouge, ultimately becoming its leader. Under his command, the Khmer Rouge launched a brutal campaign to transform Cambodia into a communist agrarian utopia. This utopia, however, turned out to be a dystopian nightmare for the Cambodian people. Under Pol Pot, the regime implemented a radical program that included isolating the country from all foreign influences, closing schools, hospitals and factories, abolishing banking, finance and currency, outlawing all religions, and confiscating all private property. The city dwellers were forced to relocate to the countryside, where they were made to labor on collective farms. Pol Pot's reign was marked by a horrifying disregard for human life. The regime, obsessed with creating a pure society, embarked on a genocide against anyone they perceived as enemies or traitors. Intellectuals, professionals, city residents, ethnic minorities, and even those who simply wore glasses were targeted. Arbitrary torture and execution were commonplace. The death toll from this period of terror is staggering. It is estimated that under Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge, nearly 2 million people, or roughly a quarter of Cambodia's population, lost their lives. They perished from execution, forced labor, starvation, and disease. The aftermath of Pol Pot's rule left a deep and enduring scar on Cambodia. Even today, the country struggles to heal from the wounds inflicted by the Khmer Rouge. Pol Pot's brutal regime wiped out nearly a quarter of Cambodia's population. His name serves as a chilling reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink when consumed by radical ideology and absolute power. Our final terrifying figure takes us to Africa. Idi Amin, a military dictator who ruled Uganda with an iron fist from 1971 to 1979, Amin's reign was marked by gross human rights abuses, political repression, and corruption. Idi Amin came to power following a military coup that ousted President Obote. Once in power, he ruled by fear. His regime characterized by brutal tortures, arbitrary arrests, and a level of nepotism that saw the country's economy crumble under his watch. But perhaps what stands out most about Amin's rule is the sheer scale of human loss. It's estimated that up to 300,000 people lost their lives during his 8-year dictatorship. These were not just political opponents, but also members of certain ethnic and social groups that he perceived as threats to his rule. Amin's practices weren't just confined to physical atrocities. He also expelled Uganda's Asian population, causing a significant economic downturn as the Asian community had been heavily involved in Uganda's commerce sector. In 1979, Amin was finally overthrown, but not before leaving an indelible mark on Uganda's history. His brutal regime serves as a stark reminder of the depths humanity can plunge to when power is left unchecked. Each of these men left a dark legacy that continues to haunt the world. Idi Amin, Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Josef Stalin, Adolf Hitler. Their names are synonymous with atrocities that shook the world to its core. It is important to remember these atrocities, not to dwell on the past, but to ensure that such horrors are not repeated in the future. History, after all, should serve as our greatest teacher, a guide that helps us navigate the complexities of the present, and a compass that points us towards a more compassionate and empathetic future.